I stabbed the pedal and gunned it on this dirt road, and with my front right tire, I hit the foam cooler, and it sent my car a few feet into the air.
What?
My name is Darren King. I'm a North Dakota-based bass player. I play the upright bass and the bass guitar. I work lucky enough, I should say, to work in the music industry for my day job as well, in the sheet music arena for a company out of Philadelphia. I had a first car. I'm looking forward to talking about it today, and thank you so much for having me here today, Elijah. I'm looking forward to this, man.
Yeah, totally, man. Holy cow, it's been a long time.
Too long.
Let me fix more audio here. Keep talking just for a bit.
All right, yeah, sure thing. Level check. Trying to use my reasonably normal voice. I don't have a podcast or radio voice.
Oh, same.
I travel around the country.
I don't even know why I'm doing it.
I travel around the country for work, and I always get comments on my accent a lot.
Oh, yeah?
Well, yeah. I mean,
people think you're Canadian or what?
Yeah, people think I'm Canadian, and
I've
just
done that.
Yeah, just from the upper Midwest. If I go down to the south or up to the Northeast or even the West Coast, anywhere I go, kind of, people make comments. I thought I'd sound normal because everybody I talk to, I guess, sounds like me.
Yeah,
but.
I know. That's what I thought too. I thought I sounded normal.
Yeah,
and then we were in a store in California, and somebody is like, "Is that a Canadian accent I detect?" Close.
Yeah. Happens. Yeah, very close. I mean, to be fair, my mother's Canadian, so I'm half.
Oh,
yeah.
So
I'm
careful.
I know. I get double accent.
The new Lynx LTS. It brings new definition to your daily commute. With a 5-speed transmission, a higher output 1.6-liter engine, front-wheel drive, and the precise control of a fully independent handling suspension. The Mercury Lynx LTS, a standard of driving sophistication for almost anything that comes your way.
Result.
Okay, yeah. So my first car, and this is not a typo or a misspeak, was a 1985 1/2 Mercury Lynx. So I open up the glove box when I'm a teenager and I look at the manual and it says 1985 1/2.
Really?
So what this was, it was a type of, from the Ford Motor Company, it kind of was very, very close cousin to Ford Escort.
Yeah.
So it was a hatchback. My dad found the cheapest car, I think, on earth to purchase. It cost $350.
Oh, really?
That he got from a little old lady. Yeah, it had very low mileage and everything. And it worked out amazingly because I play the upright bass, and miraculously, that thing could actually fit one. So if I put the seats down in the back seat and lifted the hatch up in the back, I could put it the whole way through the vehicle, and I'd be driving with my right elbow just on the scroll.
Like so it's also riding shotgun too.
Yeah, where the tuning machines where I would just kind of have in its case in my elbow on that. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. We had another Lynx in here too. I can't remember whose that was.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think I heard of one before that.
Yeah, I guess it's a thing. Who knows? Maybe it was the same one. I don't know, but it was a great car that met a very sad demise. I can get to that eventually. The thing is, my dad was so happy to get me a car. You know, a father's so happy to get their child a car, and unbeknownst to me, or without any consultation or anything, he got a vanity plate. Put on it. So when he did like the big ta-da reveal, it said Darren 1.
Okay.
On the license plate. So my first name and the number 1, kind of to my chagrin, because I mean, I don't know if that's cool to have your name on your license plate.
I wouldn't think so, but I'm also that guy that if somebody in front of me is driving like a piece of shit, and like, let's just say her name is Stacy, I'm like, fucking Stacy, drive, learn how to drive, fucking move it, Stacy.
I'm sure I got a lot of that. Hell, I mean, when I was able to get my license. I was a fetus. I was like 13 or something.
Holy crap.
Or 14 or whatever the heck it was back then when you could get your license right after you learned to walk.
Yeah.
I think the laws have changed now. Well, and what's even funnier about it too is like, yeah, okay, so it sticks out because I've got my name on it. And then in all my teenage wisdom, I decided to put a ton of like skateboarding stickers.
Yeah, of course.
And like little, probably like Grateful Dead dancing bears or whatever the hell else, just screaming to get pulled over.
Yeah.
So yeah, not real smart, but oh well. But it was cool though. First car, fully paid for. The gas didn't cost much then. It didn't take much gas.
Yeah. And I assume just great condition.
Yeah, it was in great condition. This little retired lady had owned it. It was a little grocery getter.
Yeah.
So it's probably went from the garage to the store and back. And all that. So yeah, no, it was absolutely great. Tires were great.
Kind of a lesson I've been learning too is when people have been getting vehicles from older folk, they're always in great condition. They know how to keep them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if I'm looking for a new car, I think I'm just going to have to find an old person who's kept it in great condition.
Well, yeah, man, you're a musician. You know how it is. I mean, that's kind of where we all have the dream where your great uncle, you're going to go look in his attic someday and just find a pristine old instrument that, your aunt has no idea what it is. Like, I'll give you a couple $100 for it, and it's harder to come by. But that's how I feel. I still to this day shop for cars like that. It's amazing what that thing survived. I'll tell you one little anecdote. A friend of mine and I were driving north of the city here, just cruising around on dirt roads, being morons, being teenagers. And I look up ahead and I'm like, oh, cool. Check this out to my buddy kind of thing. I'm going to do something really cool here. So I see up ahead in the road, there was one of those foam coolers.
Oh, yeah.
That you can get from the store.
Yeah.
So I kind of, nudge him. I'm like, check this out. And I stabbed the pedal and gunned it on this dirt road. And with my front right tire, I hit the foam cooler. Mm-hmm. And it sent my car a few feet into the air.
What?
Like one side up and then slammed back down. So and the cooler went flying off into the ditch. So I got out and I was just like, whoa. That was foam, So I got out and I looked. My tire was flat and it had a bit of a V in my rim.
Whoa.
It bent my tire in. So I went down in the ditch to check out the cooler, which turned out to be, a salt lick for livestock.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
So it's actually a salt lick for livestock that I just absolutely creamed that thing, thinking I was going to be hilarious.
That is kind of awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's awesome now. At the time, it wasn't, as cool. I didn't feel as cool, but I couldn't believe that.
Right.
That I, blasted the tire and did that. I mean,
well, your friend is right there too.
It was on his side.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he probably got a egg on the top of his head. Maybe bruised his tailbone because really the thing just went up and slammed. And to my knowledge, Lynx weren't known for having great suspensions or any kind of off-roading capability. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
I haven't done that with a car, but I've done it with my foot, where I saw like a chunk of snow.
Yeah.
And I went up to it to kick it like a soccer ball, thinking it would just explode. Yep. And it was a big piece of ice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what happened to my car. I don't have a lot of stories outside of that one until outside of the final day that I had the car.
Uh-huh.
So my dad was elderly when he was older when he had me. And so as I got older on into my teenage years, he sadly had a couple of strokes and had to be put into a retirement home. An old folks home where he can get like round the clock care and this, that, the other, because my mother had to work and I had to go to school. Mm-hmm. We couldn't do that. So there was one day I went to pick him up for he and I to catch a flight to Minneapolis. And I think it was like a 5 a.m. flight or something like that. It was a super, super early flight, which means, you have to get up really early to get there on time, which means I had to go to this little retirement home even earlier to make sure he's squared away. He's not moving at the speed of light. Make sure he's got what he needs. So at the retirement community, there was a kind of a pickup area that was, how would I best explain this? Inside of the compound, kind of. It had, like, you go in between parts of the building up to a door where there's sides, like a little bit of alley. Okay. There's parts of the building on either side of you. So it's kind of on the facility. That's an important part of this story. So It's the middle of winter. I probably got there at like, 3:45 in the morning, whatever it was, to pick him up. And so I pull in all the way up to the front of the building. There's two sides of the building on either side of me as well. And I leave the car running because it's super cold, and I go inside to get him to roll his bag out and grab his stuff, make sure he's squared away. I'd grabbed just maybe one of his little hand-type bags, carry-on bags or whatever, and I come outside to look, and there are flames hopping out.
Oh, the car?
The hood of the car.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so, I ran outside to, jump in and turn it off. It was far too late.
Yeah.
The car is running, and it's on fire, billowing black smoke. By the time I did that, so I jumped back out, kind of at a loss at what to do. And so I had to run back inside to let somebody know. This was prior to everybody having a phone in their pocket. Mm. And so I run inside to figure it out. There's skeleton crew staff, hardly anybody there. I'm running through the darkened halls. Like I said, it's 3:45. And when I ran inside, I had the door kind of propped open so I could get his stuff in and out. The smoke came inside the building and set off the fire alarm.
Oh, God.
For the entire facility.
Yeah.
At, just about 4 a.m. while the car is still on fire. So that alerts the staff. The fire department has to come in. I have to, hobble my dad out of there, arm in arm, kind of. He's not exactly very, very mobile at that point. Take him out into the super cold weather. And I think we had to call my mother to come take us there. And the firefighters helped us out there, but they had to full on bring an engine and everything. And the part I feel the worst about is that by setting off the fire alarm inside the building, which was a good thing because it was in very close proximity to where things were occurring in that building where the people lived, is that all the old folks came out and were screaming fire, and this guys in pajama shirts and ladies in muumuus just roaming around screaming, not sure what's going on. I know, man, it's dark, sight. But you couldn't believe such a scene that this caused. I don't know how that story ended because we had to leave to catch our flight.
Really? So you're you guys take care of it. I'm out
what
of
am I
here.
going to do? The car is hosed. That's so,
Yeah.
So I think it got taken to the dump or whatever, and nobody would ever be able to drive it again. But it was the crazy thing. The thing had never given me a single problem.
Yeah.
Before that day, and to this day, I have no idea.
No idea what caused it.
No idea why it combusted, if it was electrical or some kind of fuel leak.
Huh.
It happens fast.
That's a good way to go out, though.
Yeah, it was a good way to go out.
A blaze of glory.
A blaze of glory. I hope some of those folks are able to go back and get some more rest after that, because that kind of ruined that place's entire
it's probably the most
morning.
Excitement they've had in a while, though.
Yeah, not the right kind with kind of heart conditions and such that people have in a place like that, but it's funny to look back on now. Yikes.
We had music theory together. You remember that?
Yes, we did have music theory together, yeah.
That was fun. You went to BHS, though, right?
I did.
Okay. I went to Century, and Ruth and I would have to drive from Century up to BHS for that one class.
That's right.
That was awesome. So we would have to leave one class early, and then we would show up to our next class late. Well,
that was a good deal.
Yeah, that was a great deal.
Yeah, especially for music theory of all things.
Yeah.
No, it was super cool. Do you remember all the stuff we learned, or
I did, and the answer is no, not really so much anymore.
Same. At least some of the heavier classical theory I don't use a lot in my day to day.
Yeah, but a lot of it, man, it was really helpful.
Oh, yeah, that's great stuff to take with you forever.
Some of the ear training is kind of what I kept from it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And to be honest, all jokes aside, I use theory stuff to this day every time I pick up the instrument, a lot of the gigs that I have to play. Because the situations I find myself in, it's been priceless.
Yeah.
That the public schools afforded that. And I'm happy to say, to my knowledge, there's still music theory, and I believe there's a level 2.
Oh, yeah.
These days. Now it's like a higher advanced theory class, so
cool.
That's great. So the next generation's in good hands.
God, we were in class with people who are musicians today, too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a class like that's going to, I think, attract a lot of the folks who are more serious.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't music appreciation.
Right.
It was music theory.
Yeah.
So it was, I put it akin to somebody who wants to go to med school or somebody who wants to go to business school to take statistics to be an accountant. Or, you know what I mean? Like a higher level math course or an AP government course for somebody who's going to study poli-sci or something like that. You get kind of like the people who are kind of serious about it. So yeah, it was a very cool, creative pot of people. So I hope it's still attracting young folks like that today.
Yeah.
And filling the ranks.
But you were already pretty musically inclined at that point.
I'd been playing for a while, yeah. Yeah, I started in childhood. by that point, I was definitely on my trajectory to being a bass player, of all things. How I got going with it is, I grew up playing hockey since I got on ice when I was like 2.5. Of course, played all the sports, did swimming since I was a child. I did soccer, baseball, basketball, all the things. My dad was very insistent, that I do all the sports. But he said that, you're also going to read books. And he took me to a store and bought me an instrument. He's like, you're going to learn to do music as well. Huh. He would take me to the powwow every year, for culture. He would take me to other groups, performing groups that would come into town, or art installations that people had up in galleries for a while.
Wow.
So it was kind of a little bit of everything. It wasn't just you're not going to just do sports.
My mom was like, here's the remote. I'll see you after work.
Yeah, they didn't give me a lot of that, which I'm grateful for too. But yeah, it just happened to be that I glommed onto the music thing for whatever reason. I did sports all up until then. By the time I got into high school, I was getting so busy with music stuff that I kind of had to do one or the other. Mm-hmm. And I took the music path. And I kind of accidentally started playing the instrument itself. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a bass player. Dad had got me a little acoustic guitar when I was a kid. And I dug that, and I was, learning songs and doing the whole thing in between hockey and swim team and this, that, the other. And there was a PBS documentary that came on. It would have been in the 1990s, kind of the history of American music and rock and roll mostly. And there was 1 hour-long segment, one chapter on this that was about R&B, funk, soul music. So it started with James Brown, and they interviewed people from his band, and they interviewed his road manager, and it kind of moved along into the trajectory of Parliament Funkadelic and George Clinton, Bootsy Collins. Talked about Earth, Wind, and Fire. They talked about the Gap Band. They talk about all these kind of funk groups that were coming out that time. And I was just enamored with it. There's always people in wild costumes. Yeah. And their bands were huge. Yeah. They'd have a bunch of horn players. They'd have 3 guitar players, 2 keyboard players, drummer, percussionists. They got a couple females singing, a couple guys singing. They got, this whole thing. So I kind of became enamored with it. So back in those days, you have to go to the library. So I'd kind of have to go look up in libraries about this funk music and soul music and R&B and, just that stuff about what is this and what drives it. And I came to find out that the bass guitar was a very, very important ingredient in the stew that made this music. So I was like, well, I play the guitar. Could it be that much different? I don't know. Didn't really know anything at that time. I'm up here on the prairie. We don't get a lot of...
No, we don't.
No, we don't get a lot of black music.
Yeah.
Up here. You know what I mean? I listen to Prairie Public on Fridays and Saturdays. They play jazz and blues. I always enjoyed that. And my parents listened to a lot of stuff. My mom was into, I guess the term of the time now is yacht rock. A lot of 70s, Steely Dan.
Right, yeah.
Doobie Brothers, Michael McDonald era, Christopher Cross. That my dad was into big band jazz, so I kind of had a taste for the stuff beforehand. But anyways, back to my point. I was like, well, I don't really think much about the bass guitar. Well, then there was this really, really popular band called the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And they had this incredible bass player, Flea. And it was a band that I could actually hear on the radio or on MTV, VH1, whatever I was watching in the day, that featured the bass, and they were funky. At that time, they're even more of a funk band than they are today.
Yeah, right.
Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Give It Away and all that stuff was on the radio and on MTV. And I was like, oh man, so the bass really is important, or it can be a thing with the people I would play with and the things that I would do. So from there, I mowed a bunch of yards and saved up for a bass guitar and just started trying to learn that stuff, getting as many, they're called compact discs. That's what we used to listen to back in our day. They're CDs. Kind of a relic now. I don't even know what to do with mine. But, yeah.
Save them.
Took it from there. Yeah, I still got them all.
I got rid of a box of CDs. I regret it now. I transferred all my CDs into MP3s onto my computer, so they're all stored. But after I got rid of them and then drove a few other cars that only had a CD player, I'm like, I wish I still had all these CDs, especially the ones I got in junior high and high school. Those first albums that I got.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about that, missing that now. It just hurts my soul a little bit.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, mine are still safe and sound. I can't depart with them yet, though I am proud to say I did get rid of all the DVDs at my place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't need those. Like all these crazy streaming services, and I mean, I really don't know when the next time I'm going to go back and.
I find myself collecting DVDs now too.
And that's okay.
I got Laserdisc.
Great.
I'm going back to physical media.
That's great.
And I started because of all the streaming is why I was getting rid of stuff. But now I'm coming back around.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I just kind of realized I hadn't watched like the DVDs of season 1 of The Wire in eons, and I kind of had it streaming now anyways. So, but CDs I'm definitely holding on to. Yeah, so that's how it started. For always for the bass guitar thing, I started jamming with friends and getting into music and all that. Did not mean to play the upright bass, which has become a huge part of my life. Mm-hmm. I had a bass teacher. My dad always insisted I take lessons from people, just like I'd have a coach for hockey or swimming or whatever sport I was doing. So I did that, and I realized that if I wanted to play more music, I had to learn to read music. So I sat in my bedroom and I bought a book and I taught myself how to read music.
Nice.
Before I got a teacher who was really into that. So I kind of got into that, and I realized I could play in band at school, where they'd have bass guitar parts often, or string bass parts, or they just give me the tuba parts where you have like 8 leisure lines or whatever it is below the staff that you'd have to read. But so I did that from late elementary into middle school, and then middle school, I believe it was my 8th grade year, I was talking to my band director because I'd made the jazz band, thanks to the fact that I'd learned to read music, and I was like, man, all this jazz has got all this cool upright bass. I was saying to him, like, that'd be really fun to try that sometime since I play the bass guitar. And he's like, well, I think the school has one here in a closet.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, just like, really? He's like, yeah, it's locked away in padlock. I'm like, well, can I get the combo or whatever to get that out? And he's just like, it doesn't belong to the band department. You'd have to go to ask the orchestra teacher, see if she'd let you. So he told me who she was. I went to her office one day. I'm like, hey, I'm Darren. I play bass guitar in the band and the jazz band and this, that, the other. I'm like, I'm really kind of interested in trying out the upright bass, the double bass that it's called. She's like, oh, that's wonderful. Of course, yeah, that'd be great. You wanna like check it out for a while? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, would you want to take it home for this summer? I was just like, oh, yeah, that's kind of what I thought too. And I was like, man, yeah, that would be great. She's like, oh yeah, not a problem. I'm like, but she said, but you have to sign up for orchestra next fall.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, orchestra? With all the violins and the cellos and stuff? And she's like, yes, with all the violins and cellos and stuff. It turns out she didn't have a bass player at the middle school at that time.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, fine, whatever, I'll handle this in the fall. So she let me take it home for the summer, and I messed around on it, played around with it, did all the things I could, and they came back, and I decided to give orchestra a shot. And then she handed me a bow that fall. Again, I just had to buy books and kind of just look at pictures of people playing or any videos I could ever see on the television when it would come up, and from her instruction as well. And then, cut to scene like 2.5, 3 years later, I was playing with the symphony. So just kind of thanks to her and that.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
She never heard me play or anything. She had no idea who I was, But it just kind of worked out that way that I kind of just took to it and, got a little obsessive with it and, spent the time on it, put the work in, I guess. Mm-hmm. And jammed with other people, played. Was probably braver than I should have been with who I tried to play with or what I tried to do, but...
Yeah.
That's how I get better. But yeah, so that's kind of how I accidentally started doing both of them. It's probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
How much money you think you made that summer mowing lawns?
Oh man, it wasn't much. I think I literally bought the cheapest bass that I could get from the music store. The bass, man, that thing had to weigh like 50 pounds or something. It was a boat anchor. It was a Fender, it was a knockoff Fender Precision bass, and it was so heavy and so crappy. I have no idea where that thing is now. Mm-hmm. It's probably part of the foundation of some skyscraper somewhere. That thing was so solid. But yeah, I mean, the thing couldn't have cost more than like $150 or something.
I've never had a kid knock at my door and say, "Hey, can I mow your lawn for this amount?" That would be awesome. I wish.
Yeah. No, I just kind of did what I get what you could. I wouldn't say I was very.
Do you have your own lawnmower?
Yeah, well, that's what my dad bought for the house.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
and you're just walking around with that.
Kind of, yeah. Or just, he'd let friends know whatever. I wasn't super economically minded. I just figured I do this enough, I'll get some cash.
Yeah,
Plus, my parents gave me like $5 a week or something for allowance or whatever it was, $10.
That's
I don't.
I
I don't know.
Nice.
It took some time, but that's. I finally got it. I mean, it's amazing that the instrument was still there and all the time it took me to get enough cash for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was your father like? Strict?
No, man. My dad was a super fascinating guy. That'd be a whole podcast on its own. Yeah, he was not really a strict guy. He was very smart dude, very funny. Like I said, he had me when he was a lot older. He was the most incredible reader I've ever known. He'd be reading 4-5 novels at one time. He read The Economist, the New Yorker. He read like the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, New York Times Sunday edition. All get sent to the house.
Huh.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like you could one of his friends told me could lend him a book, and then you see him like 4 days later, he could talk to you intelligently about it. And it was something about some kind of heady thing, Eastern European economics at the turn of the century or something, So he was a really cool guy. Had a love of the arts, had a love of sports, had a love of great things. He was very, very involved in politics in North Dakota. He was never a politician, but he was a big champion of politics. FDR was his hero.
Okay.
Yeah.
Siblings?
Yeah, so I've got 3 sisters and a brother, and they're all half siblings. So he had an entire family before I ever arrived on the scene.
Okay.
Yep. And so, yeah, man, they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really smart, kind of interesting folks. A lot older than me.
Yeah, you're the youngest.
Yeah, so it's almost an aunt and uncle situation,
right.
more from them.
Yep.
But yeah, no, they're wonderful and accepted me, But yeah, no, my dad was a big jazz fan. He'd take me to what was there in Bismarck at that time? It was some kind of jazz in the park thing. It was at right where's the ball with the park across the street from the Ball Diamond.
Oh yeah. Oh, I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's on South Washington there. But anyways, he would take me to that all the time.
Uh-huh.
And all kinds of other things. So it's pretty cool because he was obsessed with sports too. Really kind of a broad range of interests, which really rubbed
I would
off
say,
on me.
yeah.
Yeah, so he was a really hip guy in that way. And my mom was too. She was cool. She was along for the ride with all these wild things I'd kind of get into.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're never against me skateboarding. They're never against me, being an independent thinker or doing this music stuff or all the like. Yeah, it's really great folks.
What was your first band?
My first band...
Like garage band.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't think we actually had a name of the first guys I ever jammed with. We would just kind of get together and attempt to play songs. The first probably organized band that really ever did actual like bookings of gigs and a recording and this, that, the other was a group called 10 Cent Haircuts.
Yes, I have that CD somewhere.
Okay, you have, that's classic rock now. That exists. And so some folks have that. Yeah. So, I mean, I had played with other projects before that, like probably some other groups, but that was like the first one that actually kind of more had legs where we actually tried to make something out of it. Entered songwriting contests and stuff like that. And that was a cool band. Sometimes we'd bring on a horn section and stuff, have a few horns, and we were all a very eclectic group. We're all eclectic players. Those guys all went on to do great things with music too. It was just it was a fun little group.
What was your experience with Midtowner?
Very little.
Yeah.
Yeah, very little. I went to see some shows there and all that, but I was a little bit of a different cat than some of the folks who are on that scene who I admire greatly. I didn't really do as much the punk and metal rock scene kind of stuff that was going down there. I thoroughly enjoyed it and went and saw shows, of course. But I was, people were, getting down to Helmet and the Descendants and stuff like that, which I dug too at that time. But I was also, listening to Ice Cube and Miles Davis
Yeah, yeah.
and Michael Jackson, and I was listening to, more of my R&B and jazz kind of stuff that I was into as well. So that's kind of where I'm more focused with some of my playing in groups, which I wouldn't fit quite well at that time, or would have known how to fit quite well with those groups. I wouldn't have been a good fit for them. They would want somebody who's more outfitted. I can do it now,
Yeah.
to fit in with those groups. But at that time, I would have been like, trying to play some cool, like, funky jazz harmony stuff. And they're like, nah, dude, that's not the vibe. And they would have been right,
Yeah, sure. I haven't seen you for so long.
I know, man. Yeah, we keep rocking.
Yeah. And I didn't even know you were still living in town.
Yeah, so I was gone for a long time. Graduated high school, and I went out to college in St. Paul, a college called McNally Smith College of Music. Went and studied there. It was kind of like a Berkeley of the Midwest, if you're familiar with Berkeley School of Music out in Boston. For those of us, the listeners who aren't as hip to that, that's to say it wasn't a conservatory in the traditional sense, where there was a lot of... there wasn't a string orchestra. There wasn't a concert choir. There wasn't a, organ recitals. It was all based on commercial and popular music. So what there was is there was a fusion ensemble. There was a jazz ensemble. There were classes on playing in like wedding band type situations. They ended up having a hip hop degree eventually. There was a recording academy connected to the school. So it was kind of more up my alley, even though I did do those other things. I kind of followed my heart to what they were selling, as opposed to, doing the straight classical path. Yeah, no. So I did that, and then ended up studying at UNLV in Las Vegas for a while. When I finished my associates in Minnesota, after playing around there a bunch, I won a scholarship down there for music for the Jazz Studies department. And my scholarship was sponsored by the Liberace Foundation.
Oh, really?
You dig? Yeah, like a piano player from back in the day, from Wisconsin originally. Funny enough, but yeah. So there's a museum down there at the time, and a whole Liberace Foundation, and they would sponsor and give scholarships to like a jazz quartet or quintet worth of students within the department, and I got the bass spot in that.
Huh.
Now I believe it's the Joe Williams Scholarship after the great jazz vocalist Joe Williams. So Liberace helped me get through college.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Funny enough, yeah. Well, the price was right. So I played a bunch in Vegas down there, and that was where really cool. I got exposed to a bunch of show busy type things, playing on the Strip and all that. Got to play with a fair amount of salsa musicians, sub in and play with salsa bands, which is really fun. Not something you really get to do as much here in the Midwest. They had such a great population of players down there, folks from, New Yorkers from New York, or, people from Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Caribbean. Yeah, so that kind of ran out. I
can't remember who it was, but somebody told me that you were playing in Vegas.
Yeah.
And for some reason I was picturing like on Fremont in a thong, cowboy boots, nothing else, maybe a bass.
Man, I just couldn't cut the audition.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. I was just too pasty, I think. Too pasty.
Oh, no. I've seen some pasty ass.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. But no, I never did that thing. No, I just kind of, you take whatever you can get, I guess. Then I found out UNLV, to get my bachelor's there, they wouldn't accept any of my credits from Minnesota. But I contacted my old school, and Minnesota would take all the credits from UNLV. I wasn't trying to be in college forever. I wanted to get out and do the thing. So I transferred back and finished my bachelor's degree in just like 3 semesters back up in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Okay.
And then another life-changing event kind of happened. I was playing all kinds of gigs with all kinds of wonderful people in the Twin Cities, and kind of making my way. And I wasn't making a ton of money, but it's music for you. But I was playing the Minneapolis Jazz Festival, or Twin Cities Jazz Festival, whatever it was, in downtown Minneapolis. And we had finished our set, and a group came up to play, and it was an United States Air Force jazz band. So I was like, I listened to them. They're good. Dug it. They're all in uniform and stuff, and it's kind of like, oh, that's interesting. And the drummer I had played the gig with was a professor at my university. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what their gig is like. He's like, well, I'm getting together with the drummer tonight. I can ask him if you want. I guess they're going to get together for a hang. Maybe they knew each other or whatever. And so a couple days later at the school, he's like, I talked to him. He said they actually have a bass opening in the band. And I have no idea what any of this entails. So I looked into it. I found the job posting online, and I saw what the audition requirements were and what the legal requirements and everything are to be in the United States military, working for the Department of Defense. And I was like, I might be able to do that. I don't know. We'll just throw a crazy one out there. So I put together an audition packet and hit the studio at the school and sent them some stuff of me playing both upright and bass guitar. And lo and behold, I got a call for an audition, which I was not expecting. But college is coming to an end. I'm like, well, I gotta do something. So I decided, like, well, sure, I'll take the audition. What's the worst that could happen? It'd be a good experience. I fly out, take the audition, and then they offered me the job. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, wow. How does any of this work? I don't understand. You know what I mean? What does that mean? And for the younger listeners, it's kind of hard to put this in perspective for you, but this was after 9/11 while George W. Bush was still president. So that means you're going to go to war. That's what we were doing for 20 years. And go I did. Yes, I went through the whole thing. I signed up, went to Recruiter, and went through boot camp. The whole shebang. Played with the band for half a decade. I was in the Air Force for 5 years.
Really?
Played all over the country, played different parts of the world. I was deployed to a bunch of different locations overseas in Central Asia and the Middle East.
Wow.
Yeah, so did that whole thing. It was kind of a wild ride. Fabulous players.
Yeah.
Great players. Yeah, I mean, it's, you're playing for keeps. It's not, you're not in college. You're not, in a garage band. It's a professional setting. But they're all musicians, so they're cool, mostly. Like any band, not everybody's cool. But yeah. So I did that thing, and then I just kind of let that run its course. And then my father passed away while I was in the service, and I couldn't quite make it back in time before he passed because I was stationed so far away. And so then I just had my mother left. So when my contract came up, I decided just to come back here so I could be closer to her. And I just started picking up gigs and work here again. Yeah, that's what brought me back here.
And your mom's still around?
Yeah, she's still around. Yeah, she's doing great, man. She healthy, good social life. I'm really, really grateful,
Nice.
Yeah. So that's worked out.
Jesus, that was a lot. You've done so much, and...
Well, thanks, Lodge. I'm trying to cut it down for a bit. I don't want to put too much of everything here, but music's an amazing thing like that, with the things you can do and the people you can meet. And but I love it here too. I love all the great musicians and musics and everything that we have to offer in our community. It's just been wonderful. To include a lot of, of course, the people you've had on your podcast prior to me are all associates and friends and collaborators. And yeah, it's great.
You've been all over the world basically playing, right?
A lot of places, yeah, definitely. Definitely a lot of places all over the country.
Okay.
A good portion of the States. And then, I've played overseas, done gigs overseas in different parts of the world, yeah. I've never been to the continent of Africa.
Not yet.
That's on my list, yeah. I'd love to go to Africa someday.
Cool.
Yeah.
What does Bismarck need in the music scene? You've been other places, you play with other groups.
I would say if there's anything that we need, writ large, the support needs to be upped a little bit. And that goes from when kids are young all the way through adulthood. It's to include investing in music programs, include investing in the other arts, including making a part of it just as our public-facing personality. Not just the industries that Bismarck supports, but also the arts that we have too, because that's I would say it's fair to say that Bismarck punches above its weight for its size, for the amount of talent that's here. And I think that as a community, we could be more forward-facing to the outside world with that, with having more public performing spaces, opportunities for folks to play, and just the general public being proud of that and going out to support that. Not just big names that come to the event center. We've got our own stuff here that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, we do.
You know, and like, I mean, for me too, I get to teach in the music department at UMary as an adjunct. And one of the great joys now for me is I get to help influence the next generation of players that come up.
Oh yeah,
And like
that's so awesome.
teach them what little I know and the experiences that I've had, because we need people to fill in behind us. I mean, it's essential, you know, that we keep ourselves alive by bringing other players up. When I was a young player, I played with people who were older than me. They took me under their wing, you know, showed me how it goes. Didn't give me easier parts than the rest of the band got. But, you know, you have to kind of rise to the occasion. I think it's important that we do that for the people who are, like, for the kids who are coming behind us, if that makes sense, and more of it. As a matter of fact, since I'm going on a tangent here, I mean, I oftentimes make the comparison between sports and music and how you treat your body and the dedication that you have to have, and that you do all this preparation for a very short amount of time of actually doing the said activity. You know,
Yeah.
You know, if you're a tennis player, you practice hours and hours and hours, and your match is really not that long. You're a musician, you practice hours and hours and hours. Your performance, really not that long in the big scheme. You put it all out there on the table. So there's a lot of things that are very common. The one thing that's not as common here that I've noticed is how many people have gone out and been very successful in music, have moved away from here and done great things, as opposed to the amount of people who have actually become professional athletes, even though it's so much more popular.
Oh yeah, right.
And maybe it's harder to be, you know, professional in athletics and be in sports. But, you know, I think there's something to be said for like what we're able to sow in the ground here and grow.
I've never thought of it that way. Mm-hmm. That makes no sense. That's awesome though.
Yeah, and I think we should.
I mean, like
proud
what
of that.
you know, what Bismarck has put out there as far as athletes compared to the musicians.
Athletes are a great many things. Yeah, it's just wild how many people and the athletes we should give, of course, all the other vocations, you know, great credit to and be appreciative of. But I feel in the music realm that we need to be more vocal about that. Like, look what we've done. Look what we just create here organically without there being massive investment in what we have. So imagine if that we did put something into that, be pretty incredible. You know? Yeah, so, I mean, that's one thing that I would say that we would need. That was the long answer. The short answer is just, you know, some more venue opportunities, I suppose, for players to get out there.
Yeah, I've been crying about this for 30 years.
Yeah, you're the man when it comes to that. I know you have been too. And I understand it takes money, takes effort, but, you know, if we can spend XYZ money on, you know, painting new stripes on the road, you take a 16th of that and put a public stage up, I would think. I guess I haven't done the math. But you have even just a band shell or something like that in different parts of the city. That'd be my short answer on that.
Mm-hmm. How long you been teaching?
I think I'm about hitting year 10 at UMary.
Holy Toledo.
Yeah.
So at this point, have you been out in the wild and seen a former student show off their skills, or you just kind of maybe run across it and you're like, oh man, I helped
mold
that.
I absolutely have. Here's the problem with that, Elijah. I've seen it all on Instagram or online because they all move away.
Yeah.
They finish college and they don't stay here. Mm-hmm. They're back to my prior point.
Yes.
Is that we could have tried to retain some of these folks. Yeah, no, a lot of them do great things. They're just absolutely fabulous, fantastic musicians, but they're just not here. They either go back to where they came from or they go somewhere else for graduate school or a job opportunity or something else that we don't offer here.
Yeah.
You know, so we kind of put them in a nice little package, put a pretty little bow on top, and then ship them to another state. You know, like, here you go. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a greatly rewarding thing. And the thing I love about the students too is as a lifelong student myself, I'm like, what are you listening to? Keep me hip. I encourage them to send me stuff, you know, on Spotify or YouTube videos or, you know, whatever's going on in their music to keep me fresh, because I still practice. I still like to learn new stuff. I love to get into things. I'm still nerd out on my instrument and music all the time, so it really helps to keep me fresh as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it's a great joy if you can, set aside what your predilections are for the music that you like, and I don't listen to the same thing over and over then too.
Yeah.
You know, which is, I feel, a trap that some of us kind of can fall into as well. Mm-hmm. So I try and resist the urge. For a very long time, was a big proponent of minivans.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a common thread amongst musicians, especially when you've got gear to haul around. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're a guy like me who gets called for certain gigs and you have to have an upright bass, a bass guitar, a music stand, an amp, your cables, all these things. So a lot of times I just rolled with minivans where I just take the seats out in the back.
Yeah.
You know, it became like a little low insurance cargo van that was good on gas. I'm sad to say that minivans are getting harder and harder to come by, and they're expensive. But I still love them. So yeah, it was mostly minivans up until my most recent vehicle. Then I had got a Ford Explorer. I still need something with the cargo space.
Did you travel much before you went off to college?
Yeah, a fair amount. My parents were good about that. They like to travel a lot. Not extensively, but yeah, we traveled a lot around the state and go, with my mother being from Canada, I've got half my family up there, so we'd go up to a lot of different places there. When I was younger, my dad ran a club in Mexico.
What?
So I'd go down to Mexico with him a lot when I was a kid. I went to preschool there for a while.
What kind of club?
Like a resort kind of thing. Maybe that'd be a better description.
Okay.
But I think it was a resort you had to be a member of.
Uh-huh.
Kind of the odd and odd that I would have had to have asked him. So yeah, I'm very lucky I did get to travel a fair amount, whether it was driving, we have to drive back up to the family farm, or out to the cities a lot. You know, it was not like necessarily international jet setting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, that was a cool thing about my folks too. The fact I was born did not slow them down for the way they wanted to live their lives at all, which I thought was very admirable.
Yeah.
I was just along for the ride. You know, throw me in the back seat and let's roll. Matter of fact, here's a fun little story. As I understand it, my mother told me that when I was 6 weeks old, they put me in the car and drove with me to Mexico. The club he was running.
Yeah.
To me, that's wild.
That is.
6 weeks old, I mean, I don't even know. I mean, babies aren't even sleeping much at all that time. You have to feed them and stuff like that. Then take them to another country just like that. And they were down there probably for a couple of months when my dad did his business dealings. Drove, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
What part of Mexico?
Manzanillo is the name of the city. It's in the state of Colima on the Pacific coast of Mexico.
Okay.
And yeah, due to my dad's and his friends dealing down there, there's actually quite a few people from North Dakota that even to this day still go down there. Like a decent contingent. It's kind of, there's almost a bit of a satellite community that goes down there to vacations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so check it out. When I was on the road in Florida, and this doesn't involve me having to name any names, so that's a good thing. You're welcome, everybody. We're setting up for a gig in a concert hall. I believe it was in Lakeland, Florida. And, I'm just kind of like setting up mics. I'm getting my amp dialed in and this, that, the other, getting ready for sound check. And in concert halls, they have very, very high ceilings above the stages. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, so that they can have racks of lights, bring down set pieces for theater shows and curtains and all that. So probably a few stories high from where you're standing. Well, we're kind of doing our thing, and all of a sudden we just hear this loud, deafening crash.
Oh, no.
Boom! Kind of like jumped. I was like, what was that? Could not tell what it was. Didn't sound like a gunshot. Didn't sound like electricity going off. Didn't sound like something fell over even. So, anyways, we kind of get through the thing. Do this. Sound check is getting closer. Percussion equipment had to get moved up to the stage. And one of the guys was like, holy shit. Come look at this. And so we went over, and he had a timpani, the big copper kettle drums. And we looked, I could see it was, the drum head was kind of ripped in a couple places on top. And so you bent over and looked in there, and one of the parkans, which is one of the, for those of you who don't know who it is, it's the lights that shine on stage that change color, had become unattached from where it was attached way high up and fell the whole way down and through the head of this timpani drum. Smashed through there. And these things are like big, expensive copper drums that made that horrendous noise. So that sucks for the timpani. I think they had to borrow one from a high school or a college or something in the area to do that gig that night. But what's scarier is if that had fallen on somebody's head,
Oh, yeah.
it probably would have just like gone through to in between their shoulder blades.
Yeah.
Like just sliced right through.
I'm pretty sure that's happened before. Lights or other
Yeah.
things have come down. In movies, a lot, it's a sandbag.
Yes, yeah, in
They
movies and
still
sandbags.
use stuff like that?
Well, I mean, that's an example of it right there. I mean, that's
Yeah, right.
That was it. That, funny enough, like in retrospect, like you know, that's hilarious at the time. But it's like it's kind of a near-death experience for if somebody had been over there or me or whoever. You know what I mean? That's kind of a freak event.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah, that was bizarre.
Have you gotten to train or learn anything from any musician or anyone you've looked up to?
Oh yeah. I've definitely had some bass teachers and just musicians in general I've looked up to through the years. I had a bass teacher, Terry Burns, who was out in Minneapolis. He was just an incredible human. I still talk to him sometimes. He's got a huge long resume of people he's played with and has written a few books on bass technique and such. He's been successful in a few markets. Tom Morrington's another bass player I got the great pleasure and joy of studying with out in the West Coast. I mean, he's the Buddy Rich band. He's played with all like the jazz greats. Yeah, incredible, a lot of incredible players. I've learned a lot from people who don't play my instrument just by via listening and interaction, you know, through the years of just shows and gigs I've played where I kind of learned what's to be expected, what your role really is. You know, learn a lot about attitudes from other people. You know, learn how the people get gigs and why they do. Like I always say, in the professional world, everybody's good.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's good. I mean, you play in the NFL. Everybody's considerably better than anybody else you've ever met that plays football.
Oh, that's why I always laugh when
You know?
somebody's sitting on the couch yelling at
Yeah.
the players. And I'm like, do you think your dumbass could actually get out
You know
there
what I
and
mean?
do
Same
any
thing
better?
with musicians too. You know, yeah, you see people playing on whatever television show or whatever. I mean, they're all incredible. So it's your attitude and your ability to hang that gets you really far. I kind of learned too. Nobody wants to work with assholes. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just it. People hire their friends. There's too many good players in the world, and it really doesn't matter if you can like absolutely shred notes or whatever all over somebody's music, because might not be what they're looking for. And the people who get the gigs don't have to show off everything they've got at all times. And you kind of learn about tastefulness from older players. And, you know, when you're young and you're an upcoming player, you know, you learn this whole new thing and you want to plug it in right away and be like, check this out. You know, especially as a bass player, that's a big no-no for most situations.
I'm sure you get a lot of egos too in class. How do you redirect that?
It's, you know, I think that you can earn respect from people just by being kind. And I think that most humans recognize a certain level of wisdom pretty quickly. You know, that if you're cutting the gig, nobody really has anything they can say. I guess would be part of it too. And it's the same thing with like even the younger players who come up and might be kind of cocky or whatever, or just kind of get in the way. I mean, I can always give you something that's harder than you can play. I can still find stuff that I can't play. I'll never be able to play. You know, I'm like, oh, well, if that's too hard, if that's too easy for you, easy. Check here. I can't get this yet. Can you try that? You know, but a big piece of advice for the ego department that I tell young players is that you don't have to show off and, you know, reveal everything and make the most amazing musical statement on everything, as long as you are not the one dragging down the boat. Come prepared, sober, good attitude, hang, nice, you know, gear works. That's all anybody wants, you know, as a general rule. So, you know, you just be a good human, have everything in order, and there's no ego to scratch. It's just, yeah, you're doing the job. And if you've got it in the bag where they turn to you and they say, hey, trombone solo, or hey, you know, piano solo, well, then there's your chance for, you know, to get some smiles on the rest of the band members' faces. But, most gigs you're hired for as a side person, you're not there to show some singer that you can, do two-toed tapping with your feet on your 9-string guitar. Mm-hmm. It's more of a niche thing for your Instagram reels.
Yeah, right. You've done so much. Holy shit. What's on your horizon? What's next?
What's next? I've got a couple of project ideas I've had in the hopper for a while. It's tough because my performance schedule remains pretty busy. I'm really lucky to play with a lot of great artists in this area, and the people that pass through or come visit, I'll get hired on for mercenary work, as I call it, for lack of a better term. But I've got a couple ideas. I don't want to tease them too much on here, just in case they don't come to fruition, for a couple of holes that I feel that could be plugged in our scene musically. That nobody's really doing. That's some of the experiences I've had. I feel like I could lead them pretty well. But really, the tangible goals I see is to just keep on playing, keep on trying to improve myself, get work for other people at a reasonable rate. Try and bring up and mentor the next generation of players as they come along. They should be better than us. We want them to surpass us in the things that they do. Yeah, and just, keep playing, remain a part of this wonderful scene. Remain, as long as you're wanted. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As long as you're needed and you're getting work, I mean, that's a great gift in itself, is that I get calls and emails to play. I mean, I don't know what more I could ask for, as long as I can keep that up.
Is this for performance or is this recording?
Performance around here. There's not a ton of recording with, as you know, with the advent of all the new recording technologies. The most I would ever want to do with that would be to get an M-Box or something and phone it in for somebody else elsewhere.
Okay.
But most of the stuff here would be for live performance for me. And that's the vast majority of the work that I do is live performance. I do some recording now and again, whether it's for a singer-songwriter or something of the like with that. But that's the live performance with other people is kind of where I hit my main stride.
For the podcast, too, do you have anything, socials or upcoming events you would like to promote?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of recurring events. I don't know when this comes out. My socials, yeah, I'm on Instagram, Darren King thing. That's my Instagram handle. I don't really do much on the socials. I'm very lucky that I was able to get on people's radars before that got as huge as it is now.
Yeah.
I do like to send some funny reels and memes and stuff. Maybe I'll get back to that someday. It's just been so toxic and poisonous.
Yes, right.
In these last years that I don't even engage with it and don't really don't comment, don't like. I don't know. Everything just gets so emotional and opinionated on there. And that's not what I want the internet to remember me for, is arguing with a bunch of strangers over something that's just the flavor of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, check me. I'm on Instagram. I'm set to private. I don't even have a public profile, but press me up. I'll see if you're real or not. Upcoming gigs, one that's recurring that's fun is I play, I think it's usually the last Monday of every month, with what's called the Bizman Little Big Band. And that's a very unique group to the area here. It's an 11-piece mini big band, as we call it, jazz orchestra, jazz band, which has got, let me see, make sure I got my numbers right, piano, bass, guitar, drums, 3 saxes, 2 trombones, and 2 trumpets. I got it right. And so we play a bunch of arrangements going back and from the 50s and 60s all the way to brand new stuff. There's no cover charge. Kids can be there. It's a really unique thing that happens here, so check out Laughing Sun's calendar for that. It's Monday night. There's usually not much else going on. With that many players in the band, and they're all so very, very good, that it's Monday night is a good night because a lot of the folks aren't gigging.
Yeah,
so,
right
so
on.
we usually have a night
yeah,
that
there's almost nothing going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Mondays.
So like the other cats in the band will actually have the day.
Laughing Sun on the stage?
On the stage, yeah. We have the
sit?
sax players sit on the floor in front of the stage.
Okay.
But we have the brass and the rhythm section, half of the rhythm section on the stage, and then we have the guitar and the keyboard are on the floor too. So yeah, it's kind of a wall of sound. But that's a recurring one I'd direct people go to. I also do a monthly gig with the great saxophonist Joel Land, who's a dear friend of mine. We play the Brick Oven Bakery, and that's usually the third Thursday of every month from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on a Thursday. So that's kind of a weird weird time. But if you can make it, that's a really, really fun gig. We just play just jazz tunes, just saxophone and upright bass.
Cool.
No cover charge there again, just, for the love of the art. So yeah, I guess my recurring gigs, now that I say it out loud, tend to be jazz right now. Mm-hmm. Lucky me. Cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I wish we had a cool jazz club.
Ah, man, I know.
You'd walk in and I hate smoking, but I like that cool look of the atmosphere of like
fog machine or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
you need something like that.
Yeah, somewhere dark, kind of downstairs, danky kind of place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be done. There have been venues here through the years that have had jazz on certain nights of the week. Close to we have, like I said, now is that the Brick Oven Bakery with their awesome baked goods in broad daylight in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's not the right time of jazz, but they're great, and we have a great time with them. We have a great a bunch of people that come out for that. But yeah, no, man, if you start Elijah's jazz club, I'll be there, man. I'll
right on. Yeah, one day I think I'll buck up and get a venue open.
Yeah, consider me there, man.
Right on. Thank you for coming in and sharing some of your stories.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I kind of wish I had more stories in the hopper. I wasn't sure what the story situation was going to be here.
You know what's going to happen. You're going to get in your car, you're going to start driving away, and you're going to be like, I should have said that. I got more to talk about. And you know what? Just hit me up and we'll get you back on here.
All right, let's do it. Maybe that'd be a fun one too. I can just rattle off. I can get some stories together.
Yeah.
Because I've got some pretty wild ones. I mean, because there's the stuff here at gigs and such, but then I've got all the stories from overseas too.
Yes.
That were, from when I was over there doing that thing. So yeah, that would be kind of fun. And a lot of them are super hilarious. And yeah, it sounds like it's a rated R podcast anyway, so I could probably get into
of course.
some of it. Sweet.
Yeah. All right, well,
awesome.
Hit me up then.
Yeah, man, will do.
Piss poor, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah, you got to sift through the shit to make sure you're getting something good.